Hello everyone and welcome back to E2E. Today we are starting things off over here in the creative testing world because we need to build a building. That is right, we will be building the last building of this mod pack. There's one final building that needs to be built, and that is the one to hold all of the end game stuff. And of course, if we're making an end game building, we need to make it out of endgame materials. So I'm thinking we are basically going to make this entire building out of the very flashy / animated / rainbow blocks, such as infinity blocks, ultimate ingot blocks, black iron trimmed with ultimate ingot blocks, rainbow stone futura blocks, which have a rainbow on them. These technically aren't endgame, but hey, it's rainbowy. And all 6 of the empowered crystal blocks. Oh, and also we have this nice Bifrost block and the Bifrost pane, which is rainbow glass from Botania. So basically we're making a giant rainbow building. If you haven't figured out my build style by now, basically I take the essence of what a mod is, and I take that idea and I turn it into a building. Like the Draconic building was a giant Draconic reactor, the Forestry building is a lumberyard, Mechanism is more of a warehouse to hold all of the machines, Nuclear Craft was the nuclear reactor, and all of the magic mods went into a wizard tower. So what are we going to build for Avaricia? Because that technically is the end game. What better thing to build than a giant infinity catalyst star floating above a, I don't know, spiky ground zero type base of the building. I'm not really sure what that's going to look like, but basically we're going to build a giant 8-pointed star out of all of these rainbow materials, and then build a base for it with some kind of spikes or something. I'm not really sure. I know I'm going to be using this infinity dust for the base, and we'll probably also be using some black iron with the ultimate ingot trim. Maybe we'll find a couple other blocks in there that we'll also use. Maybe we won't. Honestly, I have no idea what I'm doing at this point. We're just going to build a giant star and make it look good. So why don't we go ahead and start the time lapse for the last building of the city. Alrighty, and there we go. Building has been built. Couple things to note. I am definitely going to be using building paste for this because, yeah, these materials in here are extremely expensive. Even the rainbow blocks back there, super annoying to make. You wouldn't even think so because, you know, they seem pretty simplistic. But you need to have an active rainbow generator, and if you remember from last episode, an active rainbow generator requires all 16 of the other generators to be active, and that sounds like a lot of effort that I don't really want to do. Another thing you probably noticed is that the material that I built this entire, like, spire or spiky thing out of is affected by gravity. So that is why there's a bunch of leaves everywhere. This is not going to be an issue because building paste is not affected by gravity. So if this entire thing is made out of building paste, it's not going to matter too much. We will just have to remove the leaf sections afterwards. Another thing to note, I was going to make more of those, maybe some like shooting that way, but honestly, I kind of like the look of this as is, and I think we're going to be sticking with this. All right, well, let's go ahead and see if we can actually copy this over in one blueprint, copy it over to the server, and then get this thing built. Plus, we're going to have to gather some building paste. Alrighty, we went ahead and got that copied over to the server. Let's just take a look at the, cost of this building just to see that this is definitely not doable at all. So 1,400 Bifrost block, that's not actually too bad, I think. We need 288 blocks of ultimate ingot, which means we need this times 9, so like maybe like 2,200-ish ultimate ingots, and it took, I think, an hour and a half to craft 128, so that's not going to happen. We also need 282 compressed infinity dust, 70 double compressed, and 1,832 normal infinity dust, which we can't use because A, it's affected by gravity, and B, if you land on it from a height that's further than like 2 blocks, it will just disintegrate below you, so that's not going to happen. We can do the crystal matrix blocks, because they're literally just 9 crystal matrix ingots, which is just this. I think that's literally going to be the only thing in this building that is actually there, because that's like the only thing we can realistically make. We could do the trimmed black iron blocks, but again, I don't really want to waste ultimate ingots on that. And we also need 96 infinity blocks, which A, we can't make yet, and B, we would have to get in liquid form and solidify it to even be able to do this. Honestly, not really worth the effort, and we only need about 4,500 building paste. I'm not really sure how much we have. It's been so long since I've been up to this part of my base that I honestly kind of forgot that it exists. But here we are, and let's check how much we actually have. We already have enough, so we totally could just build this building right now. But I'm going to hold off on doing that because we actually need to, get it into position and then clean up the front yard because, yep, it's going to go right here. I honestly think that's a pretty good place for it. Maybe even here would be a better place, but I do want to put something on the front yard, so I think we're going to be doing that instead. And also, I would like to have an unobstructed view of the launch site and the power plant. So right here is going to be the place it goes. It also appears that I have missed a single block right there, which is great. Good thing that I noticed, though. Oh, there's also one right there. Okay, well, we missed 2 blocks, but that's good because I would not have noticed that without this kind of like solid outline here. So that's pretty good. All right, anyways, I'm going to go, get this into position. We're going to obviously lower this by 1 block, but I need to dig out the area. I need to move all of this stuff off the front lawn. This is actually going to go straight in the middle there, so that's not too big of a concern, but we are going to have to move some of these machines that I don't really use. All right, well, I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I think that's rather boring, so let's just cut back to when it's done. Alrighty, front yard has been cleared up, hole has been dug, and I have moved the crafting core right into the center where it will be ending up. Now, it is kind of interesting that you can kind of see the history of how this base has like come together. In this hole in the ground here, we got some planks when I had to fill in some creeper holes in the early game. We got some cobblestone when I had to terraform the whole thing. And we've got some of the original dirt from where the land used to be. Anyways, that's pretty interesting, but let's go ahead and place this building in. Of course, I do need to grab some building paste because, of course, that's the one thing that I forgot to do while preparing. All right, let me try to find a nice place to, like, view. This is a pretty good place. Let's do right here. All right, final building of the city. Here we go. And there we have it. Very, very nice. Now, let's not forget to fill in these corners that I missed. I actually need to find them again, which is just fantastic. All right, where was the hole in the building? I know. Here it is. Like, you can barely even tell. Like, can you actually tell the difference between that and that? No, not really. All right, well, there we go. Now, all we have to do is clean this up a little bit because we got some marker blocks. We got those leaves in the way to actually hold it up when I was copying it. Let's just go ahead and remove all of this garbage, and then this building will be completed. Alrighty, there we go. Building has been cleaned up, and that is it for here. And it looks like I actually missed some on the top here. I feel like this is supposed to go up higher. Huh. You know what? I think I actually copied this wrong. Yep, as it turns out, I did miss 2 of the little pointy bits up here at the top. Luckily, I can just copy a block from here, and then we can just paste it in here. Ah, there we go. Much better. And that is our build complete. Hopefully, I can actually say that I mean it this time. All right, anyways, so what are we going to do next? Well, the goal for this episode, it was going to be complete all 5 of these creative items here. And that still is going to be the goal, but I want to do one thing before we do that. Mostly because this is all just going to be a bunch of crafting, and then just crafting the entire episode is kind of boring. So let's go ahead and do something a little bit interesting. And of course, since we are in the end game, we do need to be doing end game stuff, so we are going to go ahead and get Neutronium. Neutronium we are going to need for various things, such as Infinity Catalyst, Infinity Ingots, and 11 other things for the endgame stuff, such as all of the armor and tools. So I think we are going to go ahead and get that today as well. There's 2 ways to get Neutronium. The first one is you craft them with Neutronium nuggets, which you craft with pile of neutrons, which come from the neutron collector. That is extremely slow. And if we take a look at the recipe here, also decently expensive. These dense helium collectors are going to take forever to craft. We need another ME controller. We need a bunch of heat collectors. That sounds like a lot of work, and we're not going to be doing it that way. The other way to get them is to put neutron fluid onto a titanium iridium alloy ingot in a fluid transposer, and the way that you get neutron fluid is with nuclear craft fusion. So I think we are just going to build up a quick nuclear craft fusion reactor. And what better place to put it than right underneath the new endgame building. I would have put it on top, but it needs to be chunk loaded, and this is not chunk centered, it's basically off centered. So I think I'm just going to dig a hole underneath here. We're going to build like maybe a 15 by 15, because I think it does have to be an odd number, and then we can put it in this chunk right here. And then we can, of course, grab the fuel for it and then pump the neutron fluid into a fluid transposer, and then we can craft as many as we need on command. But, of course, to do that, we are going to have to figure out how to do nuclear craft fusion because I have not done it before. So that is going to be exciting. So I am going to go watch a tutorial and then see what we need. Alright, after a quick tutorial later, I think we only need 3 or 4 things. We need of course, the fusion core, which is, the core. That actually makes sense. We need the connectors to connect the core to the ring, and then we need to make a giant ring out of electromagnets. Now, these recipes in themselves aren't actually too bad. The electromagnet takes elite plating. This is advanced plating. It's not even that bad. Advanced plating and copper solenoids. The connectors take tough alloy and basic plating, and of course the fusion core, we have had to make one of these before. 2 chemical reactors, some elite plating, and diboride solenoids. So that's not even too bad. The real question is, how much of these do we actually need? I have no idea. So I'm just going to go ahead and make up another fusion core real quick, probably make a pattern for electromagnets, and then we'll make however many connectors we actually need. So let's go ahead and make the pattern for the electromagnets first. Slap that down right there, and then let's just make 2 stacks for now. I feel like we'll need more than this, but 2 stacks is a good place to start. Alrighty, well, we got 128 electromagnets crafted, we got our fusion core crafted, and I'm going to hold off on the connectors until I know how many I need. So, as I said earlier, we are going to dig out a little area in this chunk, which I already have done while I was waiting for the crafting to go in. If I could get down here. There we go. We got a nice little chunk area down here. So let's go ahead and start filling this in. Now, we are going to go with 15 by 15, mostly because I want to have a decent amount. So I'm fairly certain we need to build a kind of structure like this, basically in a ring all the way around, and we need to have the corners filled in. So that's not too bad. Basically, we just run a huge ring all the way around the room. Now, it does need to be centered on the fusion core, so that's why it's going to be 15 by 15 and not 16 by 16, but we are going to have a little bit of leeway to be able to, walk around. I guess while we're waiting for these new electromagnets to craft, we can go ahead and look at what we actually are going to fuel this thing with, right? So there's obviously a whole bunch of different fuels that we can use here. I think hydrogen, we've got deuterium, tritium, helium-3, lithium-6, lithium-7, boron-11, and I think that's actually about it, and then the rest of these are just combinations of all of these. Now, we're looking for this right here, neutron fluid. So this gives you 5 and 5. This gives you 5, 5 and 5, 5 and 5, 5 and 5, 5. Oh, this one down here gives you 10 and 10, which is tritium, 5 and 5, 5 and 5, 10 and 10, 10 and 10, 5, 5, 10, 10, and 10. Okay, so we are looking for one of those 10s. So the 10 and 10 we have is tritium and lithium-7, tritium and boron-11, and tritium. So honestly, I think we'll just go with tritium because that does make the most sense. Now, tritium is going to be a little bit weird to get. We are going to be using the mechanism version because that is easier, I think. I actually don't really know for sure. But the way you get the mechanism version is you need a solar neutron activator when you put lithium in there, which of course you can acquire from liquid lithium, which comes from the thermal evaporation tower evaporating brine, which you get from evaporating water. So we're going to need a whole bunch of thermal evaporation controllers and towers, melting a bunch of water into brine, into lithium, into liquid lithium, into tritium, into liquid tritium, which goes straight into the reactor. So that's going to be a huge process, but luckily we do not need sky access other than the solar neutron collectors. So I'll probably just make 2 or 3 of them, and then we can put up a nice evaporation tower underneath the ground because that does not need sky access. It just needs heat, and we can get that via resistive heaters, and then we can, of course, run that into the reactor and make what we need. So I guess I should probably go ahead and make those. All right, well, here over in Potato Master Land, we have 6 evaporation towers. I believe, 5 of these for water, 1 for brine, and he's got Seven neutron activators. That's a lot. Then again, I don't really need a bucket per tick. I don't want to like overdo it, but I also don't want to underdo it, you know? So I guess let's just go ahead and make one more of these, and we'll call that good enough. We're going to have to make a whole bunch of thermal boiler plants. We're going to have to make a whole bunch of pipes. We're going to need sinks, although I did just, you know, remove the sink from the front lawn that was used to make singularities because we really don't need more, so we can just use that. That's going to be a lot of building, but let's just actually get the fusion controller reactor built first. Now, another thing I could do is I could replace some of these electromagnets with glass ones. I don't really know if that's going to be super useful, although I kind of want to just remove the top here. You know what? Yeah, we'll make the top ones glass just so I can see what's going on. But let me actually get these placed down first so I know how many I need to turn to glass. There we go. It was 48 on the top. So now we got to place our fusion core in the middle, and this is a 3x3, so I think this goes right there. That looks to be the middle to me. It does. 1, 2, 3. So we need 12 total connectors. Let's go get those next. And we connect the connectors up right to here like this on all 4 sides, I think. Like that. And let's see. Fusion reactor E magnets not powered, and nothing is working. That is because we do need to power these magnets, which is going to be a little bit interesting. Now, I have powered the fusion core up there. This one? This one. Yeah, this one. I powered this with the cryothium cable coming from the environmental tech building, which has a tier 5 solar panel. I am more than happy with making this thing power negative because I'm currently taking power from the output side, so if I run the power together, it's obviously not going to connect, but we can just steal power from there, and I think that's what we're going to do. The thing with these magnets, if you plug them in, let's just plug this in right here, this should start powering them up. Yep, there we go. It will spread power to everything, but as you can see, this is kind of slow. So we do need to make sure that power is going everywhere. The amount of power cables that I'm using is ridiculous. Why am I doing this? I have no idea. You know, I think there's a better way to do these cables. And what is that better way, you ask? Well, I'm literally just going to run a cable along the outside and the inside of the actual reactor here, because these do actually need 50 RF per tick to stay active. So we need to make sure that power transfer is up to the task of actually providing all of that at the same time. So yeah, we're just going to run cables basically throughout the entire thing. Unfortunately, this is a lot of power connections, so I have a feeling the server is not going to particularly enjoy doing this. But honestly, I don't care at this point. And all we have to do is then connect everything together and run it into the cable up here, which oh no, I vein mined all of this. Oh my god, this is a nightmare scenario, dude. Never vein mine power cables, that's just a bad idea. And then hopefully, all we have to do now is just plug this in, and then that should turn on the reactor extremely quickly. Oh yeah, that's how you do it. Alright, electromagnets are on. There we go. Toroid size of 4. I have no idea what that means. But there we go. Now, the way you actually set this up and get this running is you actually have to put power into here, which turns up the heat. But once you reach a certain temperature, the fusion will start. But obviously, we can't do that because we do not have fuel yet. So why don't we go ahead and work on getting some fuel going? So I guess I am now going to craft up a whole bunch of thermal evaporation towers and get those all set up. All right, well, I have gathered up basically, well, I say basically, hopefully everything that I need here. Got a whole bunch of evaporation towers prepared. I think I'm just going to go with 6. That is what Potato Master has. If that is, you know, the optimal ratio, then that's what we're going to go with as well. And I also have 8 solar neutron activators. We got some dynamic tanks, so we can put the outputs in there. We got a bunch of mechanical pipes. I think we are ready to go, so let's go ahead, clear out an area with our little deconstruction gadget right here. Weird, I don't know what's going on with that. But anyways, we're going to clear out the entire ground floor here, and we are going to build our thermal evaporation towers below this. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, well that took a very, very long time to get everything working. Thank you, Mechanism, for making every single block in your mod a tile entity, and thus you cannot use the building gadget to place them faster. But anyways, we have 5 max level, max size, max whatever, thermal evaporation towers. 5 of them run water, 1 of them runs all of the brine. That goes into 2 rotary concentrators. I actually don't know how many of these I actually need, so we just went with 2. That goes into an entangloporter, which goes all the way up to the surface over here, which then outputs into this one, puts them into the neutron activators, which then dumps into this entangloporter, which goes all the way back down and out here, which I guess I could have moved that closer to not have to put all these gas pipes down now that I think about that. Well, that was stupid. Maybe I should move that. I'll probably move that. Anyways, it all goes into 4 gas tanks. I tried to use a dynamic tank, but for whatever reason, I could not get it to go in. I have no idea why. It just wouldn't go in. So, fine, whatever. We'll just use gas tanks. So we got 4 gas tanks, and that goes all the way up here to the reactor. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and move all these. That makes way more sense. Alrighty, so I got that moved over. Now the only unfortunate part about that whole system is that it needs to be daytime for it to actually function, because the solar neutron activators are solar powered and thus need the sun. So, yeah, there you go. As you can see, they are working right now. I did put 8 speed upgrades into all of these. I have no idea if that even worked or not, but we should be making plenty of tritium now. I think we're currently filling up these pressurized tubes because they themselves have a capacity of 16,384 millibuckets, which is pretty good. And no, I'm not scared of the dark, but my solar neutron activators are. Anyways, we should be getting a bunch of this into here. I just want to make sure that it is, in fact, going in. There we go, and I think we are, yeah, we're just filling up the pressurized tubes. Okay, so I think we are just about ready to plug this in. So if we do plug this in, it will obviously put fuel in here, and we want to make sure we do not prevent input overflow. We want tritium to be in both, and now all we need to do is plug this in to get the heat up. But I suppose we should plug in the liquids first. These are gases, whatever. Oh, it actually is a liquid. Okay, liquid tritium goes straight in there. Very nice. Now we just need to heat up the reactor. And to do that, all we need to do is plug it in to power. Now, obviously, this is going to be net negative for a decent amount of time, but honestly, I do not care. Oh, okay, it looks like we are cooking. You can tell because there's a bunch of plasma in there. Cool. All right, well, there we go. This should be going. Temperature's going up. We are getting some stuff. Helium and neutron fluid. Now, obviously, this isn't very quick, and we're not getting any efficiency out of it right now. That's just because it's not heated up enough yet. But this will eventually make a bunch of neutron fluid and helium. But we need to void a leftover fluid. We want to do that. We do not want to have helium building up in here, but we do want neutron fluid. So we do now need to get that out somewhere, and we need to put it into some kind of storage. And then we can try to make our first neutronium. Alrighty, there we go. We are exporting the neutron fluid out of a little basic fluid filter right here into this portable tank, and we already have 2,000 millibuckets. That is pretty good, and this thing is complete, except for one thing. If you've made nuclear craft fusion before, you've probably noticed I haven't been cooling this thing. Yep, it is nuclear craft, and if this thing overheats, it will explode. Now, I'm hoping that happens when this temperature reaches the top, but I'm not really sure. If the power reaches the top and it melts down, that's also going to be a problem, so I might just want to cut off the, input here. So let's just do that and let this thing burn through all of the fuel here, and then it can shut off for a second. Yeah, we definitely need to cool this thing before it blows up. And the way you do that is by adding active coolers. We have done active coolers over there in our Fission/RTG building. So we will just probably be doing the exact same setup over there, getting a helium collector, turning it into liquid, and putting it into fluid coolers. Now, I'm fairly certain that you need 5,000 active cooling to get 100% efficiency, which I think will prevent it from blowing up. So that is probably what we are going to go for. So we just need to get up to 5,000 Kelvin per tick of cooling. Okay, so now we should just be able to put our supercooler right here, make sure that's connected to power. We put our helium collector right next to it. That will fill this with helium. And I believe it was 9 upgrades in each slot to make this be able to run exactly 7 active coolers. And then we can go ahead and put them down right there. Now I believe this is a liquid, so let's do like this, extract and insert. Okay, so now that has liquid helium in it, and now this thing should be actively cooling. Now it doesn't look like it is because it isn't on, so let's just go ahead and do that. and then it should be cooling, right? No, I don't actually know where to put these coolers. All right, well, it turns out I was just being an idiot. You need to place them between two magnets, not on top of one. And we did get this liquid helium to work, and one of these gives you 3,300 cooling per tick. Now, the tutorial that I was watching by the person who literally made this mod said that you only need 5,000 Kelvin per tick to get the perfect efficiency in your reactor. So that is what we are going to go with. And it looks like the heat is actually going down, so I think that we are good. Although I'm not really sure. If this thing violently explodes, I'm going to be very disappointed, but honestly don't really care that much because we do have neutron fluid available to us. And even if this does melt down, you can make neutronium seeds. You just need 8 ingots for the actual seeds themselves, 4 for the crux, and then we won't really have to worry about it because we can just make essence for it and craft them like that. I'd like to craft them here because that's more interesting, but if worst comes to it, we'll make the seeds. I'll probably make them as a backup just in case anyways, but then we should be good for neutronium for the rest of this mod. Perfect. Let me go ahead and grab a fluid infuser real quick, and then we can actually start making the ingots. Okay, well here I was trying to set up the fluid transposer, and I accidentally broke one of the magnets, and this liquid just spilled out. And you know, somehow it hasn't like blown up or melted down, so hopefully I can just replace the magnet and it should just be fine. Oh my god, that's a miracle. Okay, well, I'm going to need another fluid transposer because I think I just melted mine. I wonder if you can actually take that out. Is it like a real fluid in there? Do you think you can actually get that? I'm kind of tempted to do so, but I don't want to like break my reactor, you know? Oh, but I really want to do it. Okay, we're doing it. I'm doing it. Okay, you can't even pick it up at a bucket. Okay, you know what? That's probably for the better anyways. Okay, well, that could have been bad. Anyways, you probably also noticed I went ahead and installed all the other liquid helium coolers. I am a little worried that this thing's going to blow up because the heat keeps going up. But, I mean, it says we have 462% active cooling rate, so I'm going to assume that it's fine. We're also making a decent 83,000 RF per tick, which is not a whole lot considering my solar panel over there makes about 5 MRF, but this thing is still spinning up, to be fair. Alright, well anyways, let's go ahead and get the fluid transposer in place, upgrade this all the way, take the titanium iridium alloy out of this drawer that I collected and shove it into here, put our neutron fluid into here, and that is extremely slow, but that's fine because this reactor is also pretty slow. So we can go ahead and put an item cable, not fluid cable, right here, like so, and then we just have to wait for one of these to get crafted up, and it gets put into our drawer. Neutronium has been automated, assuming this thing doesn't melt down. Alright, well there we go, neutronium complete. Now I believe I actually have some neutronium already. I do, yep, I got that out of a quest reward, so that's pretty good, but of course, we now have it automated so we can, you know, make stuff with it. Alright, well there we go. I think we are going to save up, make the seeds just as a backup, but we are going to consider neutronium good enough for now. And now we get to do the exciting part, which is craft these 5 creative items up here. Alright, well, let's go ahead and get started. I think I'm going to start off with the creative screen, mostly because it is the easiest. All we need is a whole bunch of screens from our F tools, which are literally just glass, iron ingots, and a machine base, which is copper plates and chiseled stone. We need 3 screens from extra utilities, which takes ender shards, a resonating redstone crystal, and some stone burnt. And then we need 1 tier 1 screen, 1 tier 2 screen, and 1 tier 3 screen from open computers. Now these shouldn't be too bad. Yep, microchip, a tier 2 microchip, which is just, you know, transistors. Yeah, open computers is pretty cheap on the recipe front, so that's not too bad. And then of course the tier 3, let me guess, a tier 3 microchip. Yep, not too bad at all. And that is literally it, and all we have to do is put that onto a screen controller from RF Tools, which I have a feeling if we go to the RF Tools chest over here, we probably have one. Yep, there it is, screen controller. Let's go ahead and make this thing. And excitingly enough, we get to make it in our new building. Well, I guess on our new building, because we're technically just standing on it, but you know what I mean. And there we have it, creative screen. Nice. Now, of course, I'm going to go ahead and claim this. I have begun the bragging rights questline, and I have obtained the creative screen. Huh. I wonder why it didn't say that I've begun bragging rights earlier, you know, when I actually got the table. I don't know, but anyways, there we go. Creative screen done. That is one of the 5 things done for the day. Let's put that right there. I'm going to put these in order of when I made them. That does make sense. Alright, which one should we go for next? The creative mill is just a lot of annoying crafting, which we might want to do. You know, now that I'm thinking about this, we do have a whole bunch of things that take, yeah, let's do that. The creative mill is up next. Okay, we are going to need 12 Opinium Core Amazing. I think I made a pattern for that. I did. So let's just go ahead and see how much stuff we need. We need 84 chorus flowers, and we need 3,000 red coal, 48 bottle enchantings, and 12 elytra. Whoa! Okay, that's going to be the fun part, because that's going to take forever. So I think we're going to hold off on doing the red coal for a sec, and instead focus on getting these ultimate upgrades. If we make a whole bunch of these, they stack up to 64. We could put 64 of them into this resonator here, and then that would speed up the coal production by a substantial amount. So I think that's what we're going to do. Let's focus on getting these. It's basically just a whole bunch of drop of evil, a whole bunch of evil infused iron, a whole bunch of enchanted ingots, a whole bunch of magical apples, and a whole bunch of gold, redstone, and gold. That's a lot of crafting. It's going to take forever, so yeah, wish me luck on this. I'm just going to make a stack. And there we have a stack of these. Now, I don't actually know how many we actually need. You know, probably should have figured that out. We only need 8 for the actual crafting, so let's set aside 8. There we go. And we can dump the rest into here to make this thing extremely fast. And now we're going to need to grab 3,000 of that coal, so that's going to be a lot. So, you know what? We're just going to make a couple drawers here, and then we are going to just, you know, make, I don't know, a stack of stacks of this stuff, because we might as well, right? And it looks like we need to take out some of these because that is actually too much. So, okay, so it looks like 53 is the limit, which that's still decently fast. No, unfortunately, I don't know if we're going to be able to fly with our angel ring now. Looks like we're not because we're using all of that grid power. Luckily, this will not be an issue for much longer because we will have a creative grid power soon. But let's go ahead and take out the coal as well, and we can put that into here, and that will craft over time, and we should be able to get everything we need for that. All right, sweet. These are done. These are working on. We need 12 ultimate ingots. We need 12 dragon egg mills as well, so we're going to have to get a whole bunch of this. Now, hopefully I actually have enough stone burnt for this, but I guess we're going to find out. So I just made 12 the ice, so, oh, wow, we actually did. We had exactly enough. That is absolutely insane. Unfortunately, we're going to be needing more for the fire mill, wind mill, lava mill, and water mills that we're going to need to make, but we can get all the other stuff in the meantime. 4 benitoite and 4 anglesite. We're going to need 4 moonstone. I think I have moonstone. I do not. Luckily, we can just make some moonstone with this lunar reactive dust and some stable unstable ingots. Next up, we're going to need some Klein bottles, which is some more bottle of enchanting, ender dust, and clear glass specifically. That's a little bit annoying, but that's okay. Now, I'm not really sure how we're going to be getting these bottle of enchantings. I guess we could use these because I think we actually have some experience essence. And if not, we could literally just grow some real quick. Yep, I think that'll do. And another odd thing that I've noticed, you can see the Neutronium in the drawer through everything. Yeah, that is really weird, but you know what? We're going to leave that. It's the endgame building after all. Weird stuff is kind of supposed to happen. Oh, right. Another thing that I should probably point out, fortunately I can't really fly up to see it. The Bifrost glass emits light, and the building paste version obviously doesn't because it's made of building paste. So I went ahead and replaced some of the ones on the edges, and it kind of looks like it's lit up on the outside but not on the inside. I might light the inside up as well, but honestly I kind of like the way this looks at night, so I think we're going to stick with this one. All right, let's go make these experience bottles here. All right, well, we managed to get like 720 bottle of enchanting, so I think that's going to be plenty fine. So let's go ahead and make these Klein bottles here. We only need the 2, which is weird. We also need 2 sun crystals, so let's go ahead and make these and chuck them on the front lawn to start filling them up with sunlight. All right, well, onto the front yard you go, and we'll come back and check on that in like, I don't know, a minute or so. In the meantime, we will gather up 4 draconic energy cores. I think I actually need to craft those. Nope, we actually just have 4 sitting here. That is an absolute miracle. And we will need to grab 1 awakened core as well. All right, so that is this entire 5x5 in the middle completed. We are just waiting to get some more stone burnt and enough of the coal to make the opinium cores. All right, after a little bit of time in a bottling, we now have a stack of stacks of a red coal, which should be about 4,096, which is going to be plenty enough. I believe the only thing we're missing now is elytra. Yes, chorus flower and 12 elytra. Luckily, chorus flower should be pretty easy. We should just be able to craft this. Oh no, we can't craft it. Well, I guess we're gonna go have to grab some chorus flowers. How many do we need? Probably like 100. And we're missing 12 elytra. Luckily, we can just craft those. And yeah, I guess the easiest way to get those chorus flowers is literally just go to the end and mine them. Oh, you can't do that with a draconic bow? Well, that's too bad. I guess we'll mine them by hand. Boring. Alright, well, there we go. That should be everything. So we can go ahead and finally queue up our 12 cores, and we're missing one elytra, seriously. Why is this one not stacking with the other ones? I have no idea. Okay, well, that should work now. Do we have everything? Yes, we do. Is this going to take forever? Most likely. Well, I guess while that is cooking, I did go ahead and throw some quick polished stone into here, and we are getting some stone burnt. So we should be able to make the last generators now. So let's go ahead and do that. We need 4 fire mills, 4 windmills, 4 lava mills, and 4 water mills. And that should be everything, I think. Oh, you know what? I guess we could also move our crafting tables over to the building now. And we can also add a warp point over here. Okay, let's do it. All right, let's go ahead and make the creative mill. Boom. 10,000 passive grid power. That is pretty good. And where are we going to put this? Well, I'm not going to put it in the chest because it's actually useful. Let's put it right there. Now we have a whole bunch of extra grid power that we can use, which means we can stack up the rest of that, which will be going a lot faster. Perfect. Next up on the list, we'll either do the mana pool, mana tablet, or the creative modifier. The creative modifier isn't going to be too difficult. Hardest thing in here is going to be the gold singularity. Now, if we're going to do the gold singularity, we're also going to automate singularity creation. Now, there's 2 things that I want to try out. The first one is with packaged auto, I should be able to put 500 ingots of something into this, and then we just have 20 of those send over to the compressor right here, which, by the way, I'm going to remove the automation from the ender crafting because it is just not worth the effort, and we'll move it over here to the compressor. And then if that method doesn't work, I'm also going to try to use a level emitter so we can detect how many of certain singularities are in my system, and then if it exceeds the amount we need, then it'll just shut off. So that is what we're going to try. But I want to try the on-demand crafting first. So why don't we just go ahead and start on the creative modifier and the gold singularity. So I'm not really sure how this is going to work out. So my first idea is to not even use packaged auto at all, and it's literally just to put 500 items into the crafting table and then make them into like a dummy item and then send 20 of those dummy items to make the singularity. So I'm not really sure how that's going to work out, but I guess we'll find out. That should be able to make 500. Now we need to make some sort of dummy item, and we name this 1/20th of a singularity gold. And this is what we're making. Yeah, creates 1/120th singularity gold, and then if we have 20 of these, that will make a singularity. But all we really need to do now is just plug in both of these patterns to the same place, I think, and then we should be able to just put in the catalyst and call it good. Now, the catalyst for all of the singularities is a crystalline crafting component, so we should just be able to make that. All right, there we go. Got that plugged in. Let's just do that. And honestly, I'm wondering if this is actually even going to work, right? Because I'm not sure if this interface is even going to put stuff directly into the compressor. I guess we can find out. So let's just go ahead and make one of the 120th, which takes 500 gold, and it should just put it automatically straight into the compressor. Why are there 4? There's 4 pistons in there, bro. Okay, hold on. Let's fix that real quick. Now there should no longer be 4 pistons in there. Yep, it's completely empty. We can put that in there. And we can put that and that in there as well, and that should eventually feed all of the gold into here. That's incredibly slow. Okay, so now the interesting part about this is if I cancel this, that's going to be a bit weird. So we're just going to assume that we have one in the system already, and by putting one of the dummy items in there, and then we are going to make a gold singularity. Yep, 9,500 because we already have the one, and that should just work. Now, I have a feeling it might want to consume, yep, it did. It's going to consume that 120 gold and just dump it into here. So we did lose one of our dummy items, and there will be 1 gold stuck in there, but if we don't cancel it, we should be completely fine. So I guess we're now just going to wait a little bit and see if that actually works, and in the meantime, we can get everything else going. Now, of course, this is incredibly slow, so I don't know if we're even going to end up doing it this way. Anyways, I feel like having a export bus is probably going to be faster, but I mean, at this rate, do I really care that much? I don't really know. But anyways, let's just go ahead and get the rest of the stuff here. We're going to need expanders. That should be pretty easy. We're going to need some silky blocks of jewel, which is great. I don't know if I think I got some from a quest reward. Let me check. I got 1. Okay. Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to be making some of these, and it's literally just gold and string, and we're going to need like 35 of these, so I don't know. Just make as many as I can, I guess. All right, well, there's our silky blocks of jewel. Next up, we're going to need 12 blocks of night slime, which we actually have from making ultimate ingots the last episode. We're going to need 4 large magical wood plates. So we're going to need to grab a bunch more magical wood. And there we go. We got our 4 magic wood plates. I really hate making magic wood because it takes a bookshelf for each one, and that's just annoying. All right, but hey, we got that done. Next up, let's grab the 8 blocks of pig iron that we need. We should have pig iron available to us. Yes, we do. I made a whole bunch when making the ultimate ingots. We can also grab our 8 blocks of manuelian, grab 3 blocks of mirion, 4 blocks of osglass, 4 blocks of alumite, and 4 blocks of osmiridium. And last on the metals is 8 blocks of aluminum brass. All right, so now we're going to need to grab some Tinker's Construct things. We need 5 green slime crystals, 5 magma slime crystals, 5 blue slime crystals, and 5 mending moss. Now, I'm not actually sure how you get mending moss. I'm going to have to look into that. That's going to be great because I can't find it in JEI. So right-click on bookshelves with this to convert to mending moss. Oh, okay, so we just need normal moss. Well, that's actually not going to be too bad. Nope. No, it does not. All right, well, there's our mending boss. That was easier than I thought. All right, well, now we're going to need to grab all these slimy gems here, which means we're going to need to make slimy mud. Hopefully, I have enough slime for all of this. And thankfully, I just barely had enough. And that should be everything we need, minus the singularity, which, if we can check the crafting, we are 1,000 gold away from getting this done. Yeah, I have a feeling this is not the way to do this, mostly because of the speed. It does work exactly how I intended to. Unfortunately, we will have to cancel the craft for the dummy items, I think, because technically these should show up in the system, but if we get this, maybe it'll just override. I'm not really sure, but we can find out here in a second when we actually get this completed. I have a feeling I forgot to connect output, but it should be making the singularity any second now, because, I mean, it did just dip in power for a second. Yeah, there's definitely going to have to be a better way to do this. We might just want to move this out to the endgame building and run an ME cable over there. I feel like that's got to be the best way to do it, and then we'll just use a level emitter. Well, good thing we tried this out, though. All right, but there we go. Singularity is done. Now, I'm not going to take it out myself. I'm going to put it back into the system via item conduits just to see if this would technically work. Let's go see what our ME system thought of me doing that. Okay, so that wouldn't work because you'd have to cancel it every time, but it would, in fact, craft it. Well, let's go ahead and warp over to the endgame building, and we can make the Creative Modifier. Very, very nice. And there we go. Creative Modifier completed. Let's go ahead and put this into the chest. I am not going to be using this, mostly because once we get the creative vending upgrade, I can just duplicate this and then I can level up all of my tools to max level. But we won't use it for now. I don't want to have to make another one of those. Last 2 things on the list, the Everlasting Agility Pool and a Mana Tablet. These aren't too bad. We have all the Mirion. We can make these shards of Laputa. That's not too bad. We probably have to fight Gaia a little bit more because I think we're out of Gaia spirits. But, I mean, everything in here we either already have or it's not too bad to collect. 24 Mirion. We need 8 fabulous mana pools, which means we need some Shimmer Rock, which is Rainbow Rock. I could have used that in the endgame building. Oh, well, that's too bad. All that is Living Rock and Bifrost Block, and we are going to need 40 of that, so that's not too bad. Unfortunately, we are out of Living Rock, so we're going to have to go ahead and put some Arcane Stone onto these Pure Daisies again. But you can time in a bottle these to speed this up, so I think that is exactly what I'm going to do. And then we can combine the Bifrost Block and Living Rock to make Shimmer Rock, which then we can make into our 8 fabulous mana pools. All right, so next up we need 20 Benitoite, which is absurd. And we need 4 more shards of Laputa, which we are going to need some runes, Gaia Spirit, Dragonstone, and Floating Flowers. Now, how much Gaia Spirit do we have? We have 10, and we are going to need 4 of those, plus a little bit more for some other things in here, I believe. Yep, Gaia Spirit ingots. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a couple more Gaia Spirit ingots in of themselves and go fight Gaia a couple more times. Alright, yep, 48 Gaia Spirits should do just fine. Now, thankfully, we did have enough of these runes, so we can go ahead and make these. Now, of course, we ran out of Prismarine. Hooray! Luckily, we have a pattern for Prismarine. And there are our shards. Perfect. Okay, so that is the outer 2 rows. Next up, we're going to need 4 Gaia Spirit ingots, which means we're going to need to get some more mana dust, which we need more mana diamonds. Alright, Gaia Spirit ingots are done. Next up, we need 8 blocks of Terra Steel. That should be pretty easy. We're going to need 4 Gaia Pylons, which, oh boy, look at all of this. A lot more mana diamonds and a whole bunch of other garbage. Great. You know, why does it always have to be mana diamonds? Like, why? It's just so expensive. They take so much mana. It's not even funny. Luckily, I'm never really going to have to worry about this ever again once we have this completed. All right, there's our Gaia Pylons. We're going to need a Munchdew, an Entropinium, Gormarilis, Narslimus, 4 Kekimuris, and a full Greater Band of Mana. We're going to have to craft the Kekimuris because I don't want to just go strip my setup. But we should have all the other 4, so let's go check real quick. Munchdew right there, Narslimus, Entropinium, and Gormorillus. Yep, we have all of those. Now the greater band of mana, I believe we just have to upgrade a band of mana. That should be pretty simple. Now we do have to fill this up, so guess what? More mana. All right, well, we finally managed to gather up all of the Runes of Gluttony, and I made one extra one because I realized the mana tablet is the exact same recipe. So I'm going to actually make 8 Kekimuras because we're going to need 8 instead of 4. So I had to make all of those. And we're going to have to make another one of each of these flowers and another mana band and another one of all of this garbage. Whew, that's going to take forever, but focus on what we're doing right now. Now, I did not notice this in Botania, but there's a right click with empty hand to make the last recipe that you did, which is extremely useful. Look at that. This makes things way faster. And there we go. That did not take long at all. And there is our 8 Kekimuras. Alright, there we go. Band of mana is completely full. Did I cannibalize every single mana pool that I had? Yes, I did. But I do not care because we should be able to craft the infinite mana pool now. Please and thank you. Everlasting mana pool complete. Let's go ahead and claim this. And there we go. Fire level 11 has obtained the not guilty creative mana pool. Yeah, not guilty at all. That is going to be extremely useful because we can just dump so many diamonds and make so many mana diamonds into that thing, and we'll never have to worry about that again. And as a matter of fact, that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. Never have to worry about mana diamonds again. Well, I guess now let's go ahead and gather up everything we need for the mana tablet here. Yep, basically the exact same thing, just again. So that's going to be fun. Now, the only difference is we need full mana tablets this time. So we're going to need mana diamonds or mana pearls and some more living rock. Unfortunately, I don't think I have enough living rock for this, so we're going to have to go get some more. But luckily, the good thing about making the mana tablet last is that we don't really have to worry about filling these, because we can just turn this to fill mode. I believe that will work. Yep. I wonder how quick it's going to be. Okay, so it does take a little bit, so let's just go ahead and drop these from up here. We'll let those soak up some mana for a little bit while we wait for this living rock to craft up. And then I will go ahead and gather everything else we need for this. Now, you've obviously already seen me do this once, and this is quite literally the exact same thing, minus the mana tablet, which I literally just did. So we'll just cut back to when I have everything and we can actually craft this. Alright, well, what felt like half an hour of plant crafting later, we now have everything we need to make the Creative Mana Tablet. Hallelujah, never want to do Botania ever again. Hallelujah, it is complete. Claim. And there we go. That is everything that we need to do this episode. Perfect. Let me go ahead and put this into storage real quick, and we will call it a day from here. Alrighty, well, I think that is probably going to be it for this episode. We got a lot of stuff done today. We built our big endgame building. We got 5 creative items knocked out. We moved our crafting core, cleaned up the front yard, and even got a fusion reactor going. Now, let me go and check on it, because it has been a little bit. It does look like that thing in the middle is going pretty quick, so yep, 51% efficiency. We've got a decent amount of neutron fluid in here, which is interesting. I'm wondering why it isn't going into here. That is rather odd. Oh no, there it was. It was just lagging, I guess, a little bit. But that's okay. We have 9 ingots of neutronium. That is pretty good. Oh, and look at that. This just filled up with 10,000 neutron fluid, so we definitely will be getting 10 more ingots of neutronium, plus, I think, yeah, 1 more in there, so 11 more. So what is that, 9 total, plus we put this in here, and we have 14. So all we need is 2 more, and then we can make the seeds. I think we will be doing that next episode, though. I lied, we only need 12 seeds. We're doing this right now. Now, oddly enough, this actually takes Supremium instead of Insanium, which is kind of weird. And we can go ahead and craft that seed. Now, I probably won't be using this very much. I'm kind of more leaning towards using the actual fusion reactor for my supply of neutronium. But then again, who knows how fast it's going to be. Grab our neutronium seed and set this up down here somewhere. Now, I don't know which one of these to actually replace. We need to keep draconium. How about ender amethyst? I bet, yeah, 519 stacks. I don't really think we need much more of that. So we can go ahead and put our neutronium in there and grow some neutronium essence. Perfect. Now I am going to wait a little bit so we can add it to one of the drawers, like so. And there we go. Neutronium has been completely automated and we have our backup just in case. All right, well, with that being done, that is going to be it for this episode. Next episode, I think it is finally time that we get some revenge on the Chaos Guardian. So what we're going to do is we're probably going to do a big boss rush. Because if we go ahead and take a look at the Wyvern armor, which is a crafting step in creating the Draconic armor, we need to get the Arctic hood, the Yeti Horned Helmet and Knightly Helm, along with Steel Leaf and Fiery and Ironwood, plus a bunch of other helmets. These two come from fighting the Twilight Forest bosses. Now, you could also get the Arctic Fur and the Yeti Fur from, I believe it's Ball of Fur, if you just have a bunch of cats. I could do that, or we could just go do a huge boss rush in the Twilight Forest, because we are going to need to get the trophies anyway. If we go ahead and take a look at the creative vending upgrades, you will see we need a Twilight Forest Master Trophy, which is acquired from getting the Minotaur Trophy, Questing Ram, Knight, Phantom, Snow Queen, Naga, Twilight Lich, Hydra, and, of course, the Urgast. So we're going to have to go kill the Twilight Forest enemies anyway, so, we may as well just do a big boss rush, right? And then once we get that, we can maybe create the Draconic Armor, get that all powered up, and then take revenge on the Chaos Guardian. The real question is, will the Draconic Armor be enough to take out the Chaos Guardian? If not, I have a couple tricks up my sleeve. Goodbye.